Hello, this is Peter, Kenshin1913, along with
Mom.
And this is another Cooking with Kenshin1913. What are we going to be making today?
In honor of May and lots of horse racing that goes on in May, we're making a pony pie.
Yeah, it's delicious to have during any of your events if you celebrate any of them.
Okay, first thing you need is a pie crust. Now you can make your own pie crust. You can buy a store-bought pie crust, the frozen ones, or the ones that you roll out yourself. And then what you're going to do is you're going to blind bake this, and that just means it's going to like par bake. So you prick it so that we're losing some of the bubbles that come into the pie when it's cooking. And it's about 5 to 8 minutes that you bake this. That's all.
And you're going to want to let this cool because what we're going to do.
Then you're going to let this cool, and then the ingredients that are going to go into the pie are, we're using chocolate chips, a whole bag. We happen to be using Ghirardelli's chocolate, but you can use Toll House, anything semi-sweet.
Yeah.
And that's a 12-ounce bag. We're going to be using a half a cup of butter, which is 1 stick. We're using 2 eggs.
2 eggs, yeah.
We're using a half a cup of all-purpose flour. 3/4 of a cup of granulated sugar. We're going to put a teaspoon of vanilla.
2 things that you can also add, right?
You can also add nuts. We're not adding them because not everyone in my family likes nuts.
Walnuts, yeah.
Walnuts, pecans, whatever you would like. And you could also add a tablespoon of bourbon or whiskey.
I will put that in the video description, but we're not going to be adding those 2. So let's get started.
Okay. What we're going to do first off is we're going to melt our stick of butter. Now you can do this in the microwave. You can do it on top of the stove. You're just going to get it to come to the melting stage, so then we can add all our other ingredients to it. So this is going to just take a couple of minutes. Okay, here we have our melted butter. This is just perfect. You see that there were a couple of little chunks, but they're soft. And that was actually in my microwave 25 seconds. So the next thing I'm going to do is to take my chocolate chips and layer them on the bottom here.
Yeah, you want to layer them on the bottom of this, your pie thing, your pie crust. I think it's 8-inch pie crust.
8 or 9.
But yeah, you don't want to put them on while they're hot because obviously it'll start to melt. Granted, they're eventually going to melt anyways, but you'd rather have it melt all at the same time rather than melt separately.
Just love these chips, so I gotta have a couple for myself. Okay.
It's gonna ruin the whole recipe now.
Yep.
Alright, so we have our butter.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my eggs, put it in here, and beat them up a little bit.
Yeah, because this technique, I guess, is called creaming.
You can actually use
an egg beater or
you can use a hand mixer or a big mixer if you want, but if you don't have that, we're just going to beat it up ourselves. Just to incorporate it and add a little bit of air. Then we're going to add our granulated sugar.
As you can see, she's just trying to incorporate everything, get all the sugar together. So where we learned this recipe?
Actually,
a couple of years ago.
My daughter,
she,
who works with in an assisted living, she does all kind of events for every holiday, and she was telling me about this pie, and she actually made a couple and brought one over to us the day of the horse race. This is a teaspoon of vanilla.
Now we're going to be putting this video up hopefully the day of the Kentucky Derby, so if you do have some time you could probably make this. If not, there are a couple more horse races going on
This
during...
yeah, the month of May. They
So-
kind of almost every week.
Yeah.
This would also be the time that you would add your
Bourbon.
bourbon or whiskey if you wanted to add it. And in this area is where you would add your chopped nuts.
Yeah, you would add the chopped nuts in the chocolate. Now don't worry about the chocolate; it will melt, obviously, so it doesn't. You won't make it like there's a ton of it. So now you're gonna add your melted butter. And then you're gonna mix that all together. Now, one thing you want to make sure to do is if you what the hell is it? You preheat your oven at 350 degrees. And now you're just adding the flour. And mixing that around.
You have nice and like a light creamy yellow color it comes.
And you just want to incorporate all this again. Get everything mixed in.
This literally takes 5 minutes.
Yeah.
To get all your stuff prepared.
So yeah, so you want to preheat your oven at 350 degrees. If you already, blind baked your oven or your pie crust, it should be already ready. So now with this mixture, what do you do?
We're just going to pour it over the chips and nuts if you had nuts in there.
Yeah, if you had bourbon, you'd put it in, but we don't really have any bourbon. We got whiskey, but I don't think whiskey and bourbon are the same thing. Anyways, we're gonna pour that in there, just like that. Looks delicious already. I could munch it up.
This ends up being, it's not a sickening sweetness,
But it's like
because
a
of
rich,
the semi-sweet.
Yeah.
So you don't need a big piece of pie.
No, but it's like a rich pie. It's very, very good. Very, very rich.
So you're just going to make sure that
The whole
it's
thing is
evenly covered.
Yeah, and then we're gonna throw this in the oven for about 30 to 40 minutes at 300.
It's going to come
degrees.
the top is almost going to look like a crust.
Yeah, like a brown crust. So yeah, we'll be back when it's all set. Alright, so after about 35 minutes, the pie looks delicious. And what you want to do is, obviously it's golden brown. And what you want to do is just let it cool off, because if you try to eat it now, you're going to burn your mouth with liquid molten hot chocolate.
Yes.
So we're going to let it cool, and then we're going to cut it and
plate it, and you'll see what it looks like
yum.
when it's cut.
Alright, here we are. We're going to cut the pie. It's cooled down considerably. So let's cut the pie. Well, actually it's still fairly hot, but as you can see, the first piece is always the hardest. You know, the damn thing is coming out. The first piece is always the toughest piece to get out. As you can see, look at its liquid, chocolatey goodness. Now, obviously, it's going to get a little more set up when you're done. When you let it cool 100%. Alright, so here's our derby pie. As you can see, my mom gussied it up with some
Whipped
mint
cream and mint on top. You could do mint juleps.
No thanks for the mint. I'm
You
just going to
could
move
do
that out of the way.
vanilla bean ice cream.
Smells nice, but I don't eat mint.
And one of the things that we're going to tell you, we made a little blunder, is that you shouldn't use all of the chocolate chips on the bottom. You're going to use about 3/4 of a cup to a cup.
Which is basically half the bag.
Half of the bag. And then the nuts too. But we put all the chocolate in, so it's extra chocolatey.
It's still good. It tastes very chocolatey. You get that nice rich crust on the top. And then it's really good. And it's chocolatey and sweet. It's just really, really tasty.
And as I said, usually it's a mint julep is added
Yeah.
as part of your
You can
beverage.
also add whipped cream and all that good stuff. So, this has been Pete or Kenshin1913 along with.
Mom.
And this has been another Cooking with Kenshin1913.
Enjoy and happy eating.
And enjoy the races.
Enjoy the races.